excited to get started. Another round of our hashtag Why Get a Mentor podcast. Our guest today is Greg Farrall. Greg is the CEO and president of Farrall Wealth. He's the financial contributor for Aberdeen Living magazine. He's the radio talk show host of 103.1 WVLP on Money Matters. He's also a fellow Hoosier. Greg, thank you so much for being here on the hashtag Why Get a Mentor podcast.
Thanks for having me, Garrett. I really appreciate it. Go Hoosiers.
Go Hoosiers. Well, we're a little bit struggling right now with basketball, but I think we'll figure it out.
That's right.
So this podcast is all about how mentors have played a role in our lives and helped us achieve the success that we've had and how they've helped us get to where we're at today. I'd love to learn from your perspective, how have mentors helped you get to where you're at today?
Well, I love the topic, so thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. I think it resonates really well with me just because I've been, in my life, in athletics. I played college football at IU and then ultimately played, went on to trade in the pits in Chicago. Basically played football every day of my life in the Chicago Board Options Exchange. And throughout all that time, like really, the mentorship of having different coaches throughout my life helped me, push me along, put their arm around me, and push me was really what it's all about. And not only myself, but then teach the team mentality that is what athletics does. Is one common goal. We're all from different backgrounds. We're all from different races, different colors, and different thoughts and ideas. It doesn't matter. We're all here to win one thing and do one thing, which is win the game.
That's awesome. So who are your mentors, Greg?
My first mentors in my life were my mom and dad. My dad was very much a healer. He's an orthopedic surgeon in Ohio. And he was much a healer, horrible businessman. And loved him to death, but certainly didn't know anything about business. And just wanted to heal. And he was sort of a rock star in town as to everyone knew him, knew Doc Farrall, knew who he was. He'd either set somebody's bone or done somebody's knee or some sort of arthroscopy or whatnot. And really, you'd walk into a diner and you could literally, not only smell the bacon and the eggs and, as a young kid walking and following my dad, you have this sort of these smells of life to follow this sort of mentor that is, really was leading by example. As you walk into this, community area, with all the different tables and whatnot, everyone's saying, "Hey, Doc Farrall, hey, Doc, what about this? Thanks so much for setting my son's, arm, and little Tommy broke his arm," or, the stories that would just go on. I just looked up to him so much for that reason of the empathy that he had for people and the caring he had, and he just wanted to just care. On that side, my mom was the business person. So she basically ran things. My dad wouldn't have had a dollar in his pocket if it weren't for my mom. So she went, in the 70s to Wittenberg University at night to get classes in tax classes, investment classes. Basically, back then, taxes were 90% ordinary income. So if you can imagine, 90% of every dollar you make goes to the government. So they were getting, everyone was getting hurt by taxes at the time. So it was pretty bad. And so tried to learn as much as they could. And she did it on her own. She was self-taught. I grew up with legal pads of stocks that she would write on different prices, and really just sort of followed her lead into the financial world, ultimately, and going to business school myself and loving investing and following stocks. But she would literally write down, General Electric closed such and such price, April, whatever, 1975, 76, because there was no Google, there was no Yahoo, there was no way to be able to track these things. She'd look them up in the Wall Street Journal, she'd mark them down, she'd track them on her own. And that's just how, that's what I grew up with. So they're really the first two mentors in my life, and I'm lucky and very, very privileged, I know, to have two solid parents that were taught me in very, very different ways.
That's really cool. That's a really awesome story. And I think sometimes we neglect to think about our parents and how they can be mentors to us in our lives and even into our careers, and how those stories when we're younger can have such a formidable impact into our careers as we get older. So I love that you shared that. as you've gotten older, did you have other mentors that helped you out in your career? And if so, who were they? Like, I mean, I know obviously your mother's story of really, you know, the accounting, the finance, really getting involved in that really, I would imagine, helped motivate you to get into what you're doing today. But were there other people that helped you really kind of see that opportunity there?
Sure. I mean, the biggest mentor in my life, really, and this is as an IU reference, is Coach Mallory. Coach Bill Mallory was the reason I came to Indiana University. I had been recruited by multiple different colleges. I had Ohio State and Michigan. I had scholarships at, you know, multiple different places in USC, UCLA, and a chance to be able to go many, many places. But when Earl Bruce got fired in the fall of my senior year, and I'd already planned on going to Ohio State, Bill Mallory came in and he was a driving force in recruiting me since I was a sophomore in high school anyway. So, and he was an Ohio guy. You know, it just felt comfortable. I definitely felt like I was, you know, around my people when I was seeing Coach and being around Coach. But ultimately, to be able to play for the man and then play for just a human being, as he taught us so much about life, and the game is X's and O's, yes, and yes, the game is all about different things, you know, as far as lessons, getting knocked down, you get back up, and having perseverance and having tenacity and being relentless and all these other wonderful things that he kept on teaching. You know, but he did it in such a way that was very fatherly. He was like a second father to me, for sure. It was really unfortunate we all lost him. But what he taught all of us and all of those different players was being humble, yet having the ability to just give it your absolute best no matter who you were. We were always sort of the underdog. We were building a program. When I had first come in, the seniors had gone 0-11 in their first freshman year. So we were definitely on our way up, which was great. And we ultimately went to 3 bowl games and were nationally ranked in the top 15 our senior year when we went to the Copper Bowl. And, you know, we had a really good team. We had 2 Heisman Trophy runner-ups back then. And yes, actually, I know it's beyond most people's recognition, but or belief, but Indiana football actually was pretty good at one point. And it's coming back. So it's great to see what Coach Allen's doing. But that's really Coach Mallory by far Bill Mallory was a huge driving force in all of our lives, especially mine.
That's awesome. I love that story. That's a really cool. I'm a big sports person, so I'm a big fan of hearing that story. You know, it makes me think. I mean, I would imagine that most of the men on the football team probably viewed Coach Mallory as a mentor as well. But, you know, I think it probably impacted some guys more than others. What I would love to learn is, from your perspective, why did you decide to invest in mentoring relationships? Why did you decide to, you know, really embrace Coach Mallory and really take on what he had to say to heart? I feel like, you know, a lot of times in sports or in professional careers, sometimes it can be difficult to accept that I don't know everything, and that there's some of that I can learn from. Why did you decide that this was an important relationship to invest in, and why were you willing to be vulnerable?
Well, I've always really enjoyed coaching and just helping and teaching, and that's really where I got it from Coach Mal. I got it from my dad, where a lot of the lessons in life where they were able to ultimately teach, you know, along the way, and that's really what mentoring is putting your arm around somebody and paying it forward, you know, caring, having respect for the other individual, even though they might not necessarily be the same as you, but how can I help? And that's why we do internships and now in my company, where I basically just teach. You know, you can just sort of learn the business, but also learn a little bit about where you're going to be and how we can help you down the line to be more productive as a human being, not only for society, but also for business, as a better person, all these other things that, you know, it's not just about business, it's about being the best you can possibly be as a well-rounded person. So, you know, ultimately, it really was watching Coach, who was so invested in everything that he did. He cared so much about his players. It's like, you know what, I want to be like that. So it was really just having a mentor to see that's what I want to do.
Yeah, I love it. You know, sometimes mentors can see something in you that you may not necessarily see in yourself, but also a lot of times mentors are, it's like, what do they say? You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Mentors are more or less that guiding light of like what you can achieve and helping you kind of formulate a picture for what could be possible, as opposed to settling for what could it be, quote unquote, realistic.
No, no, that's a very good point. It's just a matter of being able to find someone who's willing to be able to invest that time. And it's, you can't make somebody be a mentor. You can't turn somebody into a coach. You can't turn somebody into a teacher. They just have it in their nature to be able to want to do that. And they're out there. They're just a matter of finding the right one that fits you, without a doubt.
So let's talk about business for a second and what role mentorship plays in that. I would love to learn from your thoughts. How can mentorship make employees be better at work?
When I saw this question, when we were talking about it before, I just love it. I love the question to be able to say, how does this sort of culture of mentorship add to an overall business? And if the business is only out for itself wholeheartedly, then it's very difficult to have some sort of mentorship or culture that is about caring. And when you actually stop and turn it into let's build a business together, let's all work together, everyone, young, old, different, mixed, doesn't matter, whomever coming up, along the way. But we have one common goal, which is to get that sales reward or, to get that profit, whatever it might be. That's just being able to build that culture comes from those that have been there, have the experience helping others, those that don't necessarily have the experience, but have the energy of the teaching or a different way of doing things, and then everyone coming together. If you're not willing to be able to mentor, I don't even know. I mean, it's not really a business I'd want to be a part of.
Yeah, I love it.
Culture goes.
And that makes a ton of sense to me. It makes me think, I was watching a video from Gary Vaynerchuk, and he talks about the time that he had to fire his leading salesperson, because I think a big point that you identified is that you can be a great individual contributor, but as a team as a whole, if we're not able to achieve more because you are only contributing to yourself and not to the team as a whole, you yourself will be better off, but you're not making everybody else in the company better off, and that is not better for the company. And so I love that you kind of outlined that. And I think sometimes it can be difficult to see the forest from the trees as a business owner. It's just like, hey, here's a great individual contributor, but if he's not willing to mentor people, if he's not willing to be on the team and like help everybody work up together, if he's the only person driving sales and no one else is, it's not making the company a better overall.
Yeah, and I think it's with any, and I know it's a sports analogy again, but with any locker room, there's always a cancer, and that cancer can ruin a season or a goal or whatever. And, it's always interesting to me after being in athletics and being with, when you're in it and it, when people are surprised that so-and-so in a pro team got, cut, or so-and-so didn't have his contract negotiated, and they just can't believe, like, how could that happen? Well, 9 times out of 10, there's a reason. And there's something else going on behind the scenes. There's something going on in the locker room. And getting rid of that cancer is the most important possible thing you can do as a culture, because cancers don't teach, cancers don't coach, cancers are evil, and all they do is pollute. So, I always talk about getting rid of the trolls in your life. The trolls just want to be able to reach up and just grab you from wherever you are and pull you down. Get rid of those people. So, move on, get rid of the trolls, get rid of the cancers in your life, wherever they might be, in your business or in your personal life. And then, you'll be better off for it.
Yeah. And then that leads to my next question is, can mentors make work more engaging? If so, how?
They make it more engaging because you don't know what's going to happen. I think it's highly recommended that if you do have a mentor, if there's a set structure of having mentorship, then you have a set structure of accountability, and you have consistent meetings with that mentor. Too many times in business, you just get so busy that just the business takes over and things don't get done. The accountability doesn't happen. So having that time with that mentor, wherever it might be, and it's not some like, let's sit down and stare at each other type situation. It's, have conversations or set up conversations, or, even walks down the hallway to be able to just have I was thinking this, I was thinking that. How, how would you, attack this situation, and give them a chance to be able to just have a conversation, sort of spread what they've, the experience, and make the whole place a better place. You come away with just that common goal.
Yeah.
It's a huge help.
That makes a ton of sense. And I think mentors at work, I think they also can help increase collaboration as well. I can't tell you how many times I'll talk to people at companies. Let's say I'm talking to somebody in the engineering department. They're saying to themselves, like, I don't know what marketing does all day. They just sit around and just spend a bunch of money on the same ad over and over and over again.
Yeah.
But we're creating like these really high quality products. Like, I don't know how they fill all 40 hours of their work week. And then marketing turns around and is like, wow, what does engineering do all day? They're creating all these stupid products that nobody wants to buy. Where do they not know the market research? And it's like, if you can help connect those two kind of areas together, or really two different departments within any company together, you can help create greater empathy and greater collaboration and greater engagement between those parties, because then they have a better idea of like, this is what the other side looks at. This is what they have to do all day and what they have to deal with. And you may not have been privy to that information. And I love the point that you brought up about time, because so often that is a big obstruction that I'll hear about mentor relationships. People say, I don't have time for it. I'm really busy right now. I almost view time as like, as an objection to mentorship, as that story about the guy who was hired to cut down trees. So just the story goes like this: guy was hired to cut down trees. On the first day, he cuts down 8 trees. Second day, he cuts down 7 trees. Third day, he cuts down 6 trees. By the end of the week, he's only cutting down 1 tree a day. He goes to his boss and he says, I don't know what's going on. I must be getting weaker. I've cut down less trees every single day. And by the end of the week, I was only cutting down 1 tree a day. Boss says, well, when's the last time you took the time to sharpen your axe? He says, no. I don't have time to sharpen my axe. I got to be busy cutting down trees.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Obviously the moral of the story is,
it's a great story. Absolutely. You got to work on yourself and got to work on your craft, and not forget about, the fact that, you need these, you also have to rest. That's the other thing too, is, it doesn't do anybody good when you're misspelling words, or, crafting awful emails, or whatever you're doing in business, or bad sales pitches, or whatever. You're wasting everybody's time, just like any good athlete needs to be able to get some rest before they perform. Same thing in business, sort of thing. So I love that story. It's a really, it's a great story. Well done.
Cool. So final 2 questions. First question is, do you suggest that people pursue mentor relationships in their workplace?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, yeah, preaching to the choir here, of course. Again, thanks for having me on. Just the chance to be able to have a mentor is so much more important, and adds so much more value to your overall work life and your overall, daily life. There might be something that a mentor mentions that might happen to be, a book that they read, or a story that they had, or whatever it might be, that you just didn't see that coming, per se. There might be some problem you're really in your personal life, or somewhere else, in your business life or your professional life, that is just, you just can't solve. You're just not having trouble. And it's not like you need, a counseling session. There just might be something that, wow, I hadn't thought about it that way, or wow, that's a really cool story. Maybe I can use that idea for something in the future. I absolutely think you should seek out, find, and really resource mentors, especially the networking side. I mean, there's so many valuable people, not only as mentors nowadays. They don't even necessarily have to be in the workplace. I mean, think about social media and LinkedIn and the groups. You can find, a mentor through a group like Indiana University Kelley Business School, group that's on LinkedIn. And, find those people, and they might be virtual. They might work in Germany. They might work wherever. Why not? The virtual world, why can't you have a mentor that's virtual? Nothing's wrong with that.
Absolutely. I think that's how you and I connected. So that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah,
and so the final question I have is, what tips or suggestions do you have for a person who's struggling to build mentor relationships, or doesn't necessarily know how? What tips or suggestions do you have for them to just get started?
Well, the first is to specifically look at some things that are you. To not necessarily go out. You might learn a number of things that aren't about you, but if you look for your people and find your people first. Those people, you're like, these are my people. You just walk in a room, you just know, you know, I know who those people are for me. You might know, you know, those people for yourself. Even, you know, even Purdue fans have their own people, right? But they do, and they should. And you find those people first that you're comfortable with and that you like and that you have like interest in. And then from there, you'll find your mentor. But you're going to have a likeness together initially that's one thing or two things, or maybe it's more. But it could be anything. So find the people that you are really, you know, if you're a triathlete, go after and surround yourselves around triathletes. If, you know, you're really into different hobbies, find yourself in, you know, fly fishing, for instance. Like I love to fly fish. I love to find groups that all love to fly fish. Find my people first, and then next thing you know, there's some other people from all these different walks of life, and all they have one thing in common is just fly fishing. So find your people first, and then go from there.
That's great bit of advice. Greg, thank you so much for being here. Last question, how can our audience find you? How can our audience connect with you?
So you can always email me at greg@farrallwealth.com. Happy to respond to any emails. We're on Twitter @FarrallWealth. It's like Will Farrell, but he spells his name wrong. It's FarrallWealth. So @FarrallWealth for all of our Twitter, LinkedIn. You find me on LinkedIn. I'd love to connect with you. As well as Facebook. But the company is a wealth management firm. It's local in Valparaiso, and we're in about 18 states now. So we have clients all over the nation, and we talk a lot of investing and everything else that goes on. But, you know, just connect with me on LinkedIn or anywhere else you can grab me, and I'd love to be able to hear the success stories and how things are going. And you can also find us at farrallwealth.com. But anyway, everything's all at Farrall.
Perfect. Well, Greg, thanks for being here. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And yeah, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Garrett. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. See you.